Sony just released firmware 2.01 for the A7S III, Rokinon announced the AF 12mm f2, and B&H just knocked off $120 for the M1 MacBook Air and Mac Mini. This and more after the intro. Thanks for tuning in to The Ordinary Filmmaker. But just before I get to today's news, please like this video. Now, the more likes a video gets, the more likely I'm to publish more videos of this type. And now, for the news. Sony just released firmware 2.01 for the Sony A7S III. It fixes an issue where a picture profile might be applied even though the picture profile is set to off. It improves the operational stability of the camera when using Imaging Edge desktop or Imaging Edge mobile apps. It fixes an issue where an error message may appear while shooting at a high shutter speed, and it fixes an issue where a file saved in the memory card may not be loaded by the Save Load settings. And of course, it improves the overall stability of the camera. So do any of these improvements seem familiar? Well, they should. Most of these fixes and enhancements were provided in a similar update for the Sony Alpha 1 just last week. It's hardly an exciting update, but nothing really broke, but we're not getting any new features. Now, while we're on the subject of the Alpha 1, do you own this camera? Do you shoot video on a regular basis? Because I've got something that might be a little bit disturbing to you. I've got several reliable sources that tell me that their Alpha 1 overheats once they reach about an hour of video. I'm not talking about 8K. I'm not talking at 120 frames per second. I'm talking about recording 4K at 24 frames per second, and this usually happens right around the 1 hour mark. Now, if you're having similar issues, please let me know in the comment section down below. I would like to know if you're using any sort of external recorders, which should help, what your environment is, what the temperature is. And perhaps this is a bug. We had a similar problem with the R5, and it really had some pretty significant overheating, but after they updated the firmware with 1.1, at least it cooled down a whole lot quicker. And the Alpha 1 has a big one-up on the R5 in that it has active cooling, so that's why I'm really surprised by this. Now, if it is an issue, I'm sure it can be handled in a firmware update. As I said, the firmware update in the R5 did wonders for heat management, although it still overheats long before the Alpha 1 does, as I'm sure many of you will point out. The Alpha 1, from everything I've heard, where it does overheat, even in 4K 24, usually happens right around the 1 hour mark. Whereas the R5, well, it can overheat right around the 25 to 30 minute mark, so there is a huge difference. So we'll just have to wait and see how this pans out. Once we get more data points, we can determine if this is a real issue or not. DP Review just announced the Sony A1, the Alpha 1, that camera we were just talking about, as the best camera ever. It beat out the 1DX Mark III, sitting at 92%, and the A7S III and R5 by 2 points at 91%. Now, I'm absolutely fascinated by these charts, but at the end of the day, they mean absolutely nothing. It's what somebody thought would be a great idea to come out with to grab a story. They came up with a bunch of criteria to measure these cameras, and from their point of view, their viewpoint, it is the best camera. But that doesn't really mean a lot at the end of the day for you. What camera works for you matters most. A used Canon 90D, a Z50, an A6400, these might be the best cameras for you in your workflow and be at a far better price. Now, the cameras in this list are the best of the best, and they have the price to match. The point that I'm trying to make is, don't feel bad if your camera isn't in this list. Get the tool that's best for you. After all, a better tool doesn't make a better photographer. Rokinon announced the AF 12mm f2 E-mount lens for the Sony APS-C mirrorless cameras. Rokinon's developing some great lenses for Sony and Canon, and it's one of the few companies, along with Samyang, that's actually Samyang, that's actually developing lenses for the R system. I'd love to get my hands on this lens, the 12mm. Well, I'd like to get my hands on an R system equivalent of the 12mm. What could I do with that? Oh, and it includes autofocus as well, a big improvement over its predecessor. Sadly, I don't have the A7S III anymore, although I'd love to have one here permanently, but hopefully they will make this lens for the R system. I've placed a link down below for the Rokinon 12mm f2. It's available for sale at B&H. And speaking of buying stuff, are you tempted to get the M1 MacBook Air, MacBook Mini, or MacBook Pro? Are you constantly going to Apple's site daily or every several days, checking on the options? but not quite ready to pull the trigger? Well, if you are, they're currently $100 and $120 off at B&H. Now this pricing puts them in line with standard educational pricing, and I've placed the links in the description down below, right under the Rokinon 12mm f2 lens. And now, let's go behind the scenes. You might notice a comment I put in the community section that I'm not doing an Ask Me Anything video this weekend. So Saturday morning when you wake up, don't expect a video. But I'm trying something different, and this should be a little bit more interesting. Sunday morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, I'm going to be doing a live stream. Now, this isn't going to be a standard live stream. I've got a special guest with me this weekend, and joining me on the live stream for the entire video is Stop the FOMO. And what we're going to be talking about is several things. We're going to take some viewer questions, but we're going to be talking about what it's like to start a YouTube channel, what it takes to grow from no subscribers to where I am, and what it takes to get past where I am and get all the way up to where Stop the FOMO is, who's got a very successful YouTube channel. He does very, very well for himself. And I'm not doing too badly either. Everything I bought for this channel, all my gear has been paid for by the channel. So there's a lot you can learn from it, but you can also ask us questions as well about, well, camera gear and accessories. So we'll be taking those as well. It'll be a 1-hour live stream, again, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time and running to 11 o'clock. Now, I have been warned by Stop the FOMO that usually right around 11 o'clock, people start dropping super chats, and we might have to extend it another 30 minutes, but we're definitely going to be there for at least an hour, and it should be a rather interesting live stream. We did do a test last weekend, and it went very well. We seem to have really good chemistry, and I'm really looking forward to this. Now, the big advantage of this is I don't have to do several hours worth of editing afterwards like I would if I was shooting the AMA video, and I've got somebody there with me too that's got a personality. So this should be a lot of fun. So please join me at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday, and if not, that's fine too. It will be available for watching later. But that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win 2 Angelbird 128GB AV Pro MK2 V90 SD cards along with a dual UHS-2 card reader. Or you could also win a Ulanzi LED light package with an accent light, underwater light, and various other flat panel lights to help light your subject. There's a great starter kit for someone starting their own channel. And if you would like to support this channel, first of all, thank you. Just even watching, you're supporting this channel. But if you're looking at buying any gear, please use my affiliate links down below for B&H and Amazon. Or consider buying an Ordinary Filmmaker baseball cap for $34.99 on ordinaryfilmmaker.com. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.